Hi, Yvonne. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, Rosie. How are you?
I am good. You're very welcome. This is our first testimonial of 2022. So I'm very excited to get going on this with you. And I really appreciate your time. So, just for those that are listening, Yvonne has been for a few one-to-one sessions here at the Weight Loss Clinic. But a very interesting approach that we took this time was getting rid of the emotional part first. So most of the interviews that I've done in the past have been where people have come on the program and they've been chewing their food and all those suggestions going in and losing weight. But this time we decided, didn't we, together, Yvonne, we decided, right, let's tackle the emotional part first. And so over to you now. I suppose what was life like before having done the emotional reset with us here at the clinic?
Well, I suppose realistically, the reason I found yourself was that I was at the end of my tether. I had done every diet on the planet. I have lost the weight, gained the weight, lost the weight, gained the weight, and it just seemed to be this constant yo-yo that was happening. And I suppose in my head, I thought, right, that's it. I need to get a gastric band. That's what I need to do. I'm just done with that. I just need, or my jaw's wired, one or the other. And I just said, right, I need to do something. So I started Googling gastric bands here one evening in desperation, while the tears were flowing because I just, nothing had fit me. I was out of breath constantly, the whole lot. And I came across yourself for the hypnosis gastric band. And I think, as my email to you said, I'm at the end of my tether. I've done everything. I need to do something. This is where I want to go. So yeah, it was just pure desperation. But in that pure desperation, where I turned to was food. And then the guilt, the feeling of, oh God, here, I've just eaten a whole pizza and oh, that's terrible. Now I feel even worse. I'll go and have ice cream. Oh, now I feel even worse. I'll go and have. I was just this constant cycle of me feeling bad constantly about everything.
Okay. Yeah, that gives us a good idea. And I suppose that mindless eating, isn't it? And where there's some sort of void or something really, like that would be the classic situation of emotional eating. It really would, where there's just no satisfaction, no, you're not really getting anything from it except
No, and I,
obviously.
I I think it's only recently I've really understood. I heard it for years, that eating your feelings, phrase. Never heard it, but never really understood it. And I can only now honestly say that I understand exactly what it was. It's suppressing everything with just shoving food in your mouth so you just don't have to think about it.
Mm, okay. Yeah, that gives us a good insight to it. So what's funny, well, that's not funny. None of this is funny, but you and I do enjoy a good giggle about it
Yeah.
all. But I remember getting your email and we set up the consultation, the hour consultation. And what you thought was, I suppose, coming into another diet as such, like, because even the word weight loss clinic, it does suggest it's a diet, but it's completely the opposite. I don't even know if we discussed your food habits apart from the mindless eat. Like, I don't think we even went into it in that first one because it was much more, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I came into it almost prepared for the usual questions. So what would be your bad habit? What is it that you do? My bad habit is food, full stop. And I was prepared for all those questions. And I think, yeah, we touched on it, but I know an hour later, I sort of came off the call going, how in the name of God was that anything to do with the diet? But I'm so excited for what's to come.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was the start of, I suppose, when somebody contacts us first, we'll always figure out, well, is this just a habit change they need? Do they just need to go on the 6 week online program, change habits, and off they go and happy out? Or is it a little bit more? And I think just from the first 5 minutes from chatting, we knew that we needed to address some more. So do you want to give us a wee bit of, like, this is a very personal journey. I wouldn't
Mm.
once suggest revealing what your deepest, darkest secrets were. Like, that's your business, and I just helped you through it. But can you share with us what your, I suppose, your emotional? mindset was, like what your mindset was, or what you were struggling with at the very beginning before we started work.
A couple of weeks before, I suppose, I spoke to you, I was thinking about this earlier, how I describe a couple of weeks before I spoke to you, somebody asked me, did I like myself? And the answer I gave them was absolutely not. In fact, how could you ask such a stupid question? And the answer to that question impacted me more than I thought it had, because I think it was the first, I know they say the first sign of anything addiction is admittance. And I think it was the road to that, whereby I realized food has definitely, I've realized, been the crutch for an awful lot of emotional trauma that has happened in my life over many, many years that I just haven't dealt with. I thought I was dealing with it, stiff upper lip and put a smile on and get up and deal with the day. And then have a pizza at the end of the day and shove it in and forget about it and just do anything not to think about what you probably should have dealt with. And, that phrase, people around the world are dealing, there's always somebody dealing with worse than what you're dealing with, or whatever it is, always came into my mind. And, I don't think I realized consciously, and I use that word very knowing that I'm using it, I don't think I realized consciously just how much trauma I hadn't dealt with, and how it was impacting not even my food habits, but my everyday habits.
Yeah, you don't really, don't you not? And I suppose you've touched on something there, which is important, is we learn to suppress. We have to, because it's fight or flight. The subconscious mind is responsible for it. It has to protect you. So, if you don't have the tools or the help to actually deal with the cause of somebody's anxiety or depression or anger or whatever it is, well, then naturally your subconscious mind has to suppress it, because we have to get up, we have to function, we've got to go to school, or we've got to go to work, or whatever it is. So you're right there, and where you were saying you would have used food to suppress all of those feelings. Yeah, it's just worth noting there that that would have been your way of coping. And you were saying there that you would have tried other things as well. So what other things would you have tried before the hypnotherapy?
Oh God. Every diet you can think of, sort of Weight Watchers, motivation.ie, but Unislim, Body Slim, Body Contortion, whatever you can
You
think that
tried them
there
all.
was. I
Yeah.
tried everything.
And what about for the
Um,
emotional part? Um, I know, like, you would have tried the diets. For the emotional part, what other methods would you have used? And did they help you?
I had tried counseling, and I still believe in counseling.
Okay.
But I think what I found with counseling was, I'm somebody who very much, and I'm sure you've realized this about me, Rosie, I do an awful lot of self-diagnosis anyway, and a self-reflection, and I'm not afraid, in one respect, to go in and ask myself those questions. But I'd locked some of it so far away that no matter how much counseling I was doing, it wasn't tackling what was happening. It wasn't getting deeper than where it needed to be. And again, through working with yourself, I now understand why, because the conscious was stopping me to get there. And for reasons for self-protection. And that's what it was. And it's the whole journey with yourself. And it feels like I've been on this journey with you for honestly about 2 years. And yet it's only been probably 6 weeks, 8 weeks in total.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
October, November
And
time.
it feels like, in a really positive way, I must say, just in case.
God, it doesn't feel that
Yeah,
long to me,
exactly.
Yvonne.
No,
Nothing in life is
absolutely.
personal. It's okay. You want to call it.
Yeah. No, it 100% positive, and it's for somebody who uses Dr. Google quite a lot. because, you know, I sort of in my own head was like, yeah, I know better than this and I know better than that. I didn't. And I suppose I'd been to counseling, I'd been to psychotherapy, I'd been to cognitive therapy over the years for different things. And again, as I said, it was again all superficial. It was very surface level. I never went any deeper than I sort of could, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's the different way. And certainly there is a place for it. You know, all those methods that you have tried. I mean, that's been part of your journey in getting to where you are now as well. Um, and I suppose for anyone listening, the difference between what we do compared to all other methods that I'm aware of would be we get to the root cause as to why someone is feeling anxious. And actually, I'll come to that to see what your anxiety was like after this. But a lot of treatments out there will, it's like sticking a band-aid on it. It's like they're treating that symptom, or if you have a cough, take a cough medicine, as opposed to see what's causing it underneath. Or, you know, like that's only a small thing. But take an anxiety as an example. I mean, when somebody comes to me and they have, like I had a guy in this morning, his symptoms would be shaky hands, full body sweat, racing heart, sick stomach. That's a big one for the fear. So those sort of symptoms, you know, we're not looking at his diet. We're not looking at all the different things. What we're doing is figuring out, well, where did he learn that? You know, where's the root of the problem? Because if we don't get back to the root, it's like sticking a band-aid on. And certainly there's two ways of doing hypnotherapy. You might find someone who'll just put you into that lovely relaxed state and say lovely things, and that's lovely. But it's not enough if you've got an underlying issue. It's just going to stick a band-aid on it for a few weeks, and then everything goes back to normal. Then the trigger, whether it's getting on an airplane or whether it's an argument with the sibling or the parent, or and all hell breaks loose. But I'd love to know, well, not that I know, I've worked with Yvonne, but even to share what it was like to be anxious for you. What would be, if you were to explain to somebody what your anxiety was like? Can you remember?
Yeah, no, I can. My anxiety, in all honesty, was worse than I probably realized as well. It was definitely all encompassing, and it froze me on occasion. For somebody that always came across so confident, and you know, I've had people describe me as being very gregarious, and you know, all those sort of lovely outspoken words, and inside I'd be screaming, and because I didn't want to do a presentation, or I didn't want to go to a party, or I didn't, and part of me, you know, put that down to my weight and my size and so on. But there was also this always this anxiety of this social anxiety that I never probably really dealt with. Um and you know, even saying work, you know, doing presentations and stuff that I love doing, but the minute I go to present them, it was this overwhelming feeling of, and when I say overwhelming, I mean it just overwhelmed me, the whole feeling, and it would start down in the absolute pit of my stomach, and I'd be like, and I could feel it, but I could never understand what it was, and it would resonate itself up through me, up through into my throat. The heart definitely would feel it, and it was just the shoulders got tense, and then I would almost feel to the point that I'd be like, I just can't do this, I just can't do this, and that was almost how I'd go into some meetings and some presentations and even some parties, you know, very much sort of almost out of breath and breathless, because it's taken so much out of me to get there and to do it and to catch myself to be able to do it. um you know, my boss regularly would message me while I'd be on presentations and say to me, breathe, just breathe, because I wouldn't be breathing.
Mm.
um yeah, and I knew it was bad. I absolutely knew it was bad, and I know when we talked first about it, I was, you know, I knew it was there. But again, I suppose it's only now really reflecting on it as well. It's night and day. The difference is just night and day for me.
Yeah. So what would it be like now when, because I know your job is very busy, it's very demanding, you're constantly presenting and so on. And what would be the difference now when you're getting ready for a meeting? What would be the difference?
There's not that. Well, firstly, I'm not procrastinating half as much. I'm getting stuff done.
Brilliant.
Which I know we spoke a lot about, that I almost
Good
was
to hear.
putting that pressure on myself. That was almost like leave it to the last minute. So you're actually can be annoyed with yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's, I'm doing it almost in a steady progression rather than leaving it till the last minute. Confident. I mean, I had a couple of presentations, and I myself afterwards was like, God, I was very confident in that. But my team and my management and so on were all said the same thing. It was very much great. There was no afterwards me going, oh God, thank God that's that over. It
Yeah.
was
Or
very
even going
much,
over it again. Did I say that right?
yeah,
Did I
yeah,
get
yeah. Oh
everything
no,
in or any of that? It's just like
I'd be somebody
done.
who would listen to the recording straight afterwards to see how I sounded
Yeah.
and what I messed up on.
So you can beat yourself up more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
And then go and order pizza. But yeah, no, it has absolutely changed it. And it's only funny, it's only now when I'm talking about that I really realize how much it's changed it. And how I'm not getting myself worked up over things that I shouldn't be worked up over, and knowing full well that I understand what I'm doing. I'm confident in what I'm doing. I'm well able for what I'm doing. And people would have told me that before, and I would have been like, yeah, they just have to say that because, like,
Yeah.
whatever the situation was. Yeah, definitely that anxiety, that social, in any capacity, that social anxiety, I personally think has dissipated just unbelievably.
That's great. Brilliant. And it really is a, a two-way process, isn't it?
God,
Like
yeah.
definitely the way that we do it, at the weight loss clinic here, like it's very the process is very similar with most people who come in. The smokers we treat a little bit different, but they're not in the weight loss clinic. They're not the other clinic, but people who are looking to change their emotional state, to get rid of any negative feelings and emotions in the body. We have a structure that we use, and I can only bring you through it. I'm 50% of the process, but the other 50 has to be the client. Like it's no good for someone who just wants a magic wand. Like, would it be fair to say that it was an emotional journey when you come in without scaring anyone?
I know in my head I'm thinking, don't scare me off. It was unbelievably emotional, but I can honestly say it was emotional in it, although tough and hard, it was emotional in a great way. Um,
It's like
if I'm being totally candid with you, it has made me feel alive again.
brilliant. Yeah.
I had numbed so many emotions because I was terrified of the emotions,
Mm.
and now it's brought them back, and I find that I'm making rational decisions. I'm making decisions based on what I want. I'm making decisions based on what's best for me.
Fantastic. I can see it in you as well. Like you're very different to the person I met a couple of months ago,
Oh,
on that
and if
consultation.
I'm really honest, it's not just you that has said that. My dad, who would see me on a regular, it's absolutely, over the period, over the Christmas period where I saw him, couldn't get over some of the differences in me. He was just like, whoa.
Isn't that
Um,
lovely for him to see too?
oh
Because he's
yeah,
obviously seen his little girl suffer for many years with her
yeah.
mind, and that's really nice that he can see that now. Fab. That's
In
great.
fact, his actual words that he said to me was, he said, I think you've got it this time. I think this time I can see it. And I thought, Jesus, it's about time. Like,
We won't say how many times, but actually,
no, we won't.
I mean, that's it. Like you've like we together have gone into your subconscious mind, and it's like hitting an emotional reset button. And that's what it is. There's no reason for any of those other triggers to spark you off now because you've got rid of any emotions attached to any earlier events in your life. So you'll have the confidence to go forward. And the other thing as well, so I know it's the weight loss clinic, but this is not a diet in here. It's about helping people with emotional eating and all sorts. So for yourself, you've done that, you've taken back control of your mind, happy out. Now, will you tell me a little bit about the the weight loss program? So you're on the Wednesday night online where there's a group of people on Zoom and doing your 6 weeks. So we're now on week 3. So can you tell me how your habits have changed? And also, do you remember you were saying before we came on here, you were saying something about in December habits had already changed without us even
Oh,
talking about not
yeah, I
without
was
doing the programming. It was because the emotional stuff was sorted. Can you share that?
like since I started with you, so we had what in total 3, 4 sessions
3.
over December. Um, uh, I'm surprised Just Eat. I'm surprised they're still in business, to be honest with you, because literally it was 3, 4 times a week that I was, hit the button, hit the button.
Mm.
Once I've ordered takeaway, and that's because somebody was here and it was sort of I hadn't food and they arrived, whatever. But and even at that, I didn't order the magnitude of what I would have ordered before. It was, a very small portion of, oh, that's what I'd like to eat. Um, yeah, like that behavior in itself was it's just, and it's not that I'm thinking about it. It's not, and I can't stress that more to people. It's not that I'm sitting here going, I'm not allowed to have it, just does not enter my head. It
Mm.
does. On a Saturday evening, I'm sitting here, what was, 3, 4 o'clock, starting to think about what you'd like. Oh, yeah, would I like, maybe I'll go for that this week. Oh, will I go for Indian or pizza, or what will it be? Which pizza will I go for? Do I want this? Do I want, oh, maybe I'll get some of that as well. That was what consumed it on a Saturday. Whereas now I get to 7, 8 o'clock and I've had my something to eat earlier, and I get to 7, 8 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, right, I might do scrambled eggs. Yeah, I'll do scrambled eggs. That'd be nice. It's just not a thought.
Amazing,
It's
yeah.
it's just genuinely not a thought, which I never thought would be the case for me. I mean,
Yeah.
in previous editions of Yvonne, I'll call them, um, I've had Christmas cards from the takeaway, to say thank you for your
That's a
service.
record. That's a good one.
Like, so takeaway has always been my vice. Always been my vice. I used to blame my parents because we lived so far out in the country we could never get takeaways. So when I moved away, I say, oh yeah, it's because we couldn't get them when we were kids.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the book.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, completely. But yeah, that's definitely been one, in December, that was definitely something. As I said, I didn't even notice it until I noticed it.
Yeah.
Over Christmas, where I would have had no problem before sitting down with the cheese board to myself and all the crackers and all the grapes and the grape stick was my 5 a day inclusive. Um, just no even want. Yes, I did have it, but when it was sort of, everybody was sitting around the table and it wasn't me sitting on my own eating it because I just felt like eating it.
Mm.
And that was before we had done anything at all, really. And I honestly believe I felt lighter in myself because of the emotional stuff
Mm.
that had already been vanquished from me as such. Do you know what I
It's like a
mean?
big
And
weight
that
off your
we'd worked
shoulder.
through.
Yeah. And that was it. So it's lovely. And you just gave me that update today. It's nice hearing that because there was no suggestion around food, but you were able to see that yourself. Once the emotional stuff was gone, you weren't using food for comfort. And then, so then you jumped on the class then on the 5th. And how has that helped you over the last couple of weeks? We're in our 3rd week now. How's that
Well,
helped you with
number
habit?
one, the sessions on a Wednesday are just the most relaxing thing I've ever done in my life. It's for anybody who just wants an excuse just to chill out, go for it. Never mind all the added benefits that come with it.
Yeah.
Um, like I think I was saying it on the class the other night. I mean, I went shopping after the first week, and without, again, there being you can't, you shouldn't, oh God, no. My trolley when I got to the till had no chocolate, no crisps, no, nothing that I would normally have had in there. And I might have had a token piece of fruit previously, whereas this time there was pineapple slices, there was apples, there was I was like, what? And it sort of resonated with me when I was putting it into the bag. I was like, what in the name of? And then during the week, I found myself, like, I took a photo of myself eating my first apple without even thinking about it. I suddenly picked it up and ate, and then suddenly realized I was eating it. And I texted my dad and I went, this is the first apple I've had since I was about 12. Um,
And it's no coincidence because that's the sort of stuff we're putting in there. Like
yeah.
increasing your desire to eat fruit, you love your apples, the exercise, the
Oh,
drinking water. Did you notice yourself all of a sudden drinking more water?
yes and no. I was always good with the water. In fairness, it's not something I would have struggled on. But what I do notice is that I would have been somebody who maybe I would have forgotten about it and then gone for it. But I would have always made sure I got my 2 liters in. Whereas definitely what I've noticed is in the morning, the first thing I do before I even go for my coffee now is fill my big 2 liter of water,
Yeah.
which I would have never done before. That would have always been an afterthought after the coffee and whatever I was having, toast or whatever for my breakfast.
Mm,
Um, yeah. Whereas now it's straight away the water. And even during the day, I'm noticing myself going, oh God, I need to have a glass of water now. Yeah, that's fine. Like, and that definitely changed this week. I can see a massive change in that this week.
great.
Um, which is great.
Yeah, brilliant. And then, but obviously you weren't buying that stuff, so presumably there's no biscuits or any of that kind of stuff now in the house.
No, and which is really bizarre. Like, yes, I will admit I have had one or two cravings in the evening, but I think that's more out of my nightly rituals rather than out of. So I've had to change those. So rather than sitting down when I finish work now, I've had to change it. Whereas I would have always gone, made my dinner, go and sit down, eating it, watching the telly. Whereas now what I'm doing is I'm stopping, say, at about 4:30, 4:45, having something to eat, then coming back to finish off work, whatever long that takes me, throwing on the coat afterwards, going out for a quick walk, coming back. So it's changing my routine completely.
Yeah.
And but again, that has not been something that I've had to sit down and think about or procrastinate on. I mean, God, the word procrastination keeps coming up in my head that I was so bad for it. Like,
Yeah, well,
and
that's gone now.
that's gone. Do you know what I mean? It's like no, do it, just do it. And like this, I've never had the sense of satisfaction that I've had out of things I'm doing recently, like scratching things off a to-do list. I used to be great for making to-do lists and then leaving them to the side and finding them a month later. Yeah, it's, and I say it, I'm not being too exaggerative or anything else when I say it by any means, but it has actually changed my life in so many ways. So much of it. And the weight loss has become absolutely, I'm doing it, I'm enjoying it, and I'm finding it, you know, things that I never thought that I'd be able to do, I'm doing without thinking about. But it hasn't become that almost life or death. I have to lose weight, even though I am losing weight. It's gone beyond that completely.
Because you're feeling much happier in yourself. You possibly, like a lot of people who are watching this as well, a lot of us would measure our self-worth on our weight
Yeah,
because the weight is something that can be seen, can't it? You know, we could have other habits or other addictions as well that people have. The food one is the cruel one because you can see it. You know, some people could have a drug addiction and people might not know.
yeah,
um, Drink addiction, they're bound to split up, or not split, they're bound to slip up at some stage. You may see it, but there are very often some people who can manage to hide that as well. So the food one is a cruel one. I'm just delighted that you got so much out of it, and I'm delighted too that you shared your story because I know that's how you know how you would have found us as well, with somebody else sharing their story.
oh
And
yeah,
there's
absolutely. And I suppose say it on here, thank you, Sinead, for sharing your story, because there was so much of her story that resonated with me,
mm,
that I just went, yeah, I can identify with that so well. So, hopefully there's somebody out there that can see this. And honestly, it's so much more than weight loss. It really is. It's the way you read about, like, we've all been told to read Eat, Pray, Love, or one of those, go on a self-discovery mission and love yourself. This is all of that wrapped up into one, in all honesty. And it's yeah, I've really enjoyed it and I've loved it, and it's not over. It's definitely not over. And I can feel myself planning for stuff now that I wouldn't have done before. So yeah, thank you,
Brilliant.
Rosie.
Yeah, well, thank you for trusting the process because that's all it needs. It needs a willing
Mm.
client, and the process does really work. So I suppose you've answered what I was going to ask you there was if anybody is watching it and they're wondering, is it for them? Would you recommend it? But I think you've you've answered that really. But
Well, I'll put it to this way, and I know anybody who's done any of the courses out there and any of the programs, they've all spent money, that way outweighs what the cost of this course is. And when you sit down, if you're having, it seems like a lot, work out what you spend on a weekly basis between the bars and between you have to do this and you have to do that. No, I'll buy a new pair of, running shoes because I'm going to go running, because they said it'd be really good for me, or whatever it is. I can't explain how well worth this is. Um, and it'll help you with so much more than just weight. It gets to the root of the problem.
mm, that's it, isn't it? And like as
Yeah.
much as my passion is helping people, what weight somebody is, I don't measure their success at the it's not, it's so much more, um, I suppose weight is something that a lot of women do struggle with. So I suppose that's where I can help with programming the mind to eat better and stuff. And the online class, a lot of the time, is enough for people to do the 6 weeks. And maintenance wise, they can jump in for another program if they want to top up for a holiday, or if it's Christmas or something, if they feel like just a little booster. But to get to the deep rooted stuff, that's where my real passion is as well. Like talking to somebody like yourself now this evening who's been through it, life has changed. That's why I get up, go to work in the morning. So
Mm.
thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing with us, and hopefully we'll hear back from you again. We'll check in another time, and delighted now to be able to share that with everyone. Thank you so much. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Rosie.
Bye.